You step through the grand doors of the Stanley Hotel, and the air, it feels wrong. Shadows linger where no one walks. Lights flicker for no reason. Guests have woken to children laughing in empty hallways, felt a hand press against their back when no one is there. Famous writers, Hollywood stars, all have slept here. Stephen King dreamed a horror in room 217. Jim Carrey fled in the middle of the night. What they saw, they never spoke of again. And some never leave at all. High in the Colorado Rockies, where the wind threads through endless pines and the mountains rise like silent sentinels, there stands a hotel whose elegance masks something darker. The Stanley Hotel. White walls gleaming in the sunlight, but at night, shadows move differently here. Guests arrive chasing crisp mountain air and the charm of a bygone era. Some leave with stories they dare whisper only once. Others never speak of what they saw at all. Of all the Stanley's rooms, none casts a longer shadow than 217. In 1911, a gas leak tore through the room. Elizabeth Wilson, a young chambermaid, was thrown across the floor. She survived, but many say she never truly left. Guests still report her presence, clothes folded neatly overnight, lights flickering in empty corners, blankets tugged gently over sleeping chins. Some awaken to the faint, acrid scent of gas, decades after the pipes were replaced. Imagine standing in that room. You feel the chill creeping up your spine, a faint whisper, almost inaudible, a presence behind you that shouldn't exist, and decades later, one of the world's most famous horror writers would sleep here and wake with a nightmare that would change literature forever. Some guests have shared their own experiences online. One visitor recounted a night on the 4th floor.
I stayed there last year with my boyfriend. Around 2 a.m., we woke to the sound of children laughing right outside our door. It went on for minutes, then stopped suddenly. When we checked the hallway, it was empty. The next morning, I asked the staff if any families were staying. They said no children had been checked in all week. I've never been more certain. We weren't alone.
The Stanley shadows wander far beyond room 217. In the concert hall, there's Paul, a former employee who enforced curfews. Even in death, he keeps order. Guides on late-night tours have heard him bark, "Get out." On the grand staircase, cameras capture things the eye cannot. Glowing orbs, ghostly silhouettes. One tourist photographed a woman in Victorian dress standing silently on the steps. No one else was there. The 4th floor echoes still. Guests awake to children running past their doors. Toys roll across the carpet. Doors open slowly, inviting or warning. In 1974, Stephen King and his wife, Tabitha, checked into the Stanley near the end of tourist season. The hotel was nearly empty. King slept in room 217. He dreamed of his young son running down hallways, chased by a fire hose that came alive. He woke, trembling. By the time his cigarette burned to ash, he had the skeleton of what would become The Shining. King described the Stanley as perfect inspiration, dazzling in daylight, yet wrapped in an atmosphere of dread that refused to lift. Others have shared chilling encounters. One visitor recalled their ghost tour through the concert hall.
My husband and I were on a tour. I lagged behind to take a photo. Suddenly I felt a hand push me forward. I spun around. No one was there. Later, when I checked the photo, there was a pale figure in the doorway, right behind me.
In 1994, Jim Carrey stayed in 217 while filming Dumb and Dumber. Within hours, he fled the hotel in the dead of night. When pressed, he refused to explain why. Silence is all that remains. The Stanley's tale begins with F.O. Stanley, a man of invention and ambition. By the early 1900s, he had already built the Stanley steamer with his twin brother. One of their cars hit 127 miles per hour in 1906. Unbelievable for the era. But fortune could not protect him from tuberculosis. Doctors warned he had less than a year to live. In 1903, he and his wife Flora journeyed west to Estes Park, Colorado. There, the air, the sun, and the forest worked a miracle. Stanley's health returned. He vowed to give something back. Using his wealth, he built a grand hotel. White walls gleaming, electricity, running water, fine dining, a palace rising from the wilderness. From the beginning, locals whispered strange lights in the forests, shadows that moved of their own accord. The Stanley was alive with something it could not explain. Today, the Stanley embraces its haunted reputation. Paranormal tours sell out nightly. Investigators capture voices, shadows, doors moving on their own. Photographs reveal faces staring back. More than a century later, the Stanley Hotel blurs the line between history and haunting. Its white walls gleam in sunlight. But at night, the shadows tell a different story. Some guests leave with photos, some leave with scars, and some leave in silence, too shaken to speak of what they've seen. Is it the land itself, ancient and restless, the echoes of tragedy replaying endlessly, or has the Stanley become something else entirely, alive with whispers of the dead? So if you ever stand before its walls, remember, you may check in as a guest, but you are never truly alone. You've seen the shadows, felt the whispers, and glimpsed what lingers in the corners of Hollow's End. But there are more stories waiting, more places that watch in silence, more secrets that refuse to stay buried. If you dare, subscribe and step further into the dark with us.